Just let that that motorcycle go by. What's up, everyone? So I have been wanting to go live for a while, and even though I'm not going live right now because I don't have an internet connection where I am, I'm just literally in the car of a parking lot of a church in my neighborhood that I stumbled upon. I just like the lighting right here, and I felt the impulse to record a video. So normally I'd be in my room, but I love a change of scenery. Like deeply within my soul, I need a change of scenery. And this is what this video is going to be about. Okay, so we're talking about things under the lens of ADHD, but it's really time for me to start going full gear into what the next phase of my life is and what it's going to be. And I wanted to talk about that. So I talked about how I got the diagnosis for ADHD and how it actually really opened my eyes to a lot of things about myself that I didn't know. I was already wondering, am I missing something as to who I am? Am I missing something that's stopping me from getting all of the things that I want in life, the kind of love and relationship that I desire, the kind of living environment that I desire, the kind of career and finances that I desire. I mean, right now, if I'm just going to be real with you, so I'm living at home with my parents, and they are really supporting me and helping me regroup and reset into what I want to do next. They're not really deeply involved, but they're just giving me a place to stay and encouragement and kind of trust in me and belief in me that I am going to be fine. And I find that to be so important. And I know that I'm really blessed in that way. On top of that, though, I had to really believe in myself. I had to really believe that I am worthy and that I am going to be fine, and just know that within myself. And I feel like after being diagnosed, a haze kind of came over me. But now I feel like that haze and that fog is being lifted. Like I really, truly believe that, like in 2020, I mean, 2020 is the year of mastery for me, but it's like, what am I going to become a master in? I really believe that writing, using words, is going to be one of those things. And I have been watching a lot of a certain sexologist that you guys may know, Shan Boody. She's really a huge inspiration to me because when she speaks about her journey and she speaks about all the pitfalls and like learning her worth and saying no for the first time to a deal from a major network, it really resonates with me. The support that she says she has from her parents, even though they were skeptical and obviously not obviously, but they were not happy about her career choice at first. But when she talks about her journey from going to Canada to California, to living in a very dark room in a dark place inside and outside of her, psyche, finding her agent and how synchronous that was for her. I mean, I was just like, wow, this woman is like telling my story in a way. She even said, I mean, it's a story that I haven't quite lived yet, but even in having lived in New York and coming back home, that's, the whole thing of like having to come back home again, and the whole thing of like not living in the best living environments, but you're just trying to make it on your own. And at that point in your mind, going home is just not an option yet. Like if I could tell my journey, which I already have, I talked about when I moved from South Carolina at 17 to New York. And when I came home for 6 months after that first year of school and went back just to move to New York, and everybody wanted to know, what are you doing? And are you in school? And it was like, no, I'm just living. And I really resented the fact that it seemed like people wanted me to explain my reasoning for living somewhere that I wanted to live, but it had absolutely nothing to do with them when they were not supporting me or giving me any kind of money. I'm like, look, you're not in my inner circle. You're not one of the people that I'm going to call when I need money or support. So why are you questioning me and my life decisions? So one thing that I like that Shannon says is that she actually had to get to a point where she stopped making even her parents' opinion about what she wanted to do the first priority. And she decided to make a change in her life to live as if everyone that she cared about their opinion was actually approving of her. So, I mean, just the way she talks about moving from place to place, going on that journey, not stopping, knowing your worth. And I feel like I'm only just now getting to know my worth. Starting a freelance writing business was the best thing that I could have ever done to learn my worth. That and getting into a relationship that wasn't quite, like I would say breaking up from that relationship and then going on a journey to sexual health, to relationship health, to self-love was actually huge for me and in learning my worth. But when it comes to my worth about my work, yes, I've had to say no. And yes, I've had to get rejections. And yes, I've had to take chances. And I'm just like, I just love how she explains it, because I feel like she's taking words from my mind that I didn't even know I was thinking about, just how good it feels to say no and to take that risk that you are not in a place where you're going to compromise on your worth when you work so hard to become good at what you do. So with that said, I still need more training about what I do, so I'm really considering going for a grad school journalism degree. I kind of told a friend about it, and she had a lot of negative things to say about the program, but I was so excited about that program and excited about applying. And so I'm still going to apply, because I believe that at the end of the day, what has never really led me wrong is not other people's opinions, but my own excitement and feeling about something. I'm an ENFP in the Myers-Briggs personality type. So that is extroverted. What does N stand for? Extroverted, intuitive, feeling, perceiving. So to me, that's just like all the feels. And that's just the way I'm going to process the world. That's just the way I'm going to make decisions. And that has been one of the most important things that I've done in this journey. And it has just, when I follow that and I'm getting back to a place when I'm learning to trust and feel within my body what is the right thing to do, it never seems to steer me wrong. And wrong to me could be right for you, and right for you could be wrong for me. So that's really important to understand. Look, this ain't nobody else's life but yours. So when you start to shape and alter your decisions and your mind and your thoughts and whether or not you think they're good or not based on someone else's idea of what's right and wrong, that's when you got a lot of self-work to do. And that is the process that I've been going through all this year, maybe even prior to this calendar year. I began to realize that a lot of the decisions that I was making about what was right or wrong, particularly around expressing myself sexually as a performer and erotically and sensually as a performer, singer, and writer, and just as someone who's just in terms of my ideas about relationships and what I desire to experience in them, I realized I wasn't letting myself kind of have that, because I was kind of like looking at, how would my boyfriend think of this? And how would my ex think of this? How would my dad think of this? And how would God think of this? Not remembering, I'm totally forgetting about the fact that God is within me. I've experienced God as being inside of myself as a galaxy, a vast galaxy of stars. So maybe that's why I named myself Star. I've only had the name Star for like the past couple of years. So yes, I do give myself names. So, I'm just really at a point where like I feel ready. So I have a friend, a really good friend of mine who's moving to LA in January to pursue her acting career. And I'm like, I really believe that I feel like I would be ready to do that this is what's really weird about time. And this is what's really weird about just being in the right place and feeling and knowing that, okay, I was going through a process and I just wasn't done with it yet. But now I feel that I'm coming out of that process of like rest and research. I'm always going to be researching. I'm a researcher, but I'm coming out of that period of time of reset, and I'm going back into like, okay, we're back on, we're powered on, baby. Like I have the energy to put towards the things that I love. I feel confident to approach the kind of people that I need to. And even though, I'm pretty bad with follow through, I do believe I'm following up with the right people. And I believe in cultivating relationships. I feel like I'm ready to do that in a completely new place. And I am desiring very deeply within my core, deep inside me, a new scene, a change of scenery where I can meet tons of new people a day, where I can go several places and never see the same faces, because having ADHD, you need stimulation and I need relaxation as well. I don't get it twisted. I do have to balance, but I really need newness. It is important. And without that, I do not feel like, I said this in another video that got split up into two parts. I don't know if I'll post it, but in order to feel okay and like things are not falling apart in my life, I need change and I need something new. So back to the LA thing. Just earlier this year, over the summer, I was convinced that I was not ready to move to a new, very expensive city, that I did not have the energy to work, and that I didn't even have the skills or the qualifications to find employment or whatever that I needed in order to make a living. Like, certain things in my mind over this whole year and even over the past several years have felt like closed off to me, like they just were not a possibility to me. Like, follow me, right? So after quitting the shelter job and then going into substitute teaching, and then feeling very apprehensive about teaching, but feeling like it was the only way I would be able to make sustainable money. And having that, not knowing myself at the time, because I didn't know I had ADHD at the time. I didn't know that I would always need new projects and that I was never going to be satisfied going into the same place every day. And I had written off journalism as something that was for other people who could make it, but it was not for me. I just, I don't know. It's just like, it's too competitive. And I had all these excuses for why the thing that I'm so naturally good at, that would give me all the stimulation and variety and notoriety that I needed, why that wasn't right for me, right? And I believe that in my own mind. I just accepted that as a belief, limiting belief. And so I went from that to teaching, despite all the negative reviews of teaching, and despite the fact that, because it's like, it's not about other people's opinions, but it was like an overwhelming majority of people said that this particular program was not good, right? This particular teaching fellows program wasn't sufficient. And I know a lot of people who went through it. Some people may say it was the best thing that happened to them. Some people may say it was the worst thing. But my experience was my experience. For me, it wasn't necessarily right for me. In fact, the training of teaching fellows was actually really good, except that it didn't align with anything I had to actually do in the classroom. So if only they matched, then it probably could have been a great experience. But my classroom experience with my school, it was a failing school, and it was a school that I was on the verge of closing. And I was one of the first teachers that year to leave. After that, 5 other teachers left. So therefore, when 5 teachers leave in the beginning of the school year, then there's a real problem, because there's a lot of benefits to staying in the teaching profession in New York City. But if you resign, you can never go back, which for me is a blessing, because I'd probably be trying to get back if I wasn't banned from going back because I resigned, and I was told this by a friend who's trying to get back into the teaching field in New York, that quitting is looked at as worse than being fired. You would probably have a better chance of becoming a teacher again if they had fired you than if you had decided to quit on your own because you decided it wasn't right for you. So because of rules like that to me just don't really feel fair, I'm glad that I don't want to be a part of that profession. I'm really happy because I believe that there's a way outside of the classroom that I can still inspire people, and that I can still inspire young people, and that I still have something to say and something to offer. So my journey, right? So in going into teaching, which I did not feel was right for me, but I still persisted anyway. And it was a learning experience. Like, even though I'm not going to say it was a failure, because even though I didn't stay in it permanently, does not mean that it was a failure. I learned something from it. So for me, it was just a part of my journey that I needed to get to the point where I am today. People look at it as, oh, now you know what you don't want. And my therapist told me that. A couple of other people told me that. But I don't even look at it like that. I look at it as, I'm an experience collector. I mean, what else is a journalist? One of the things that made me want to be like a news anchor or whatever at a radio station when I was younger is that they just got to immerse themselves in all these very different experiences in a very brief way, in brief time, and report on it and say, this is what it's like to do this, jump from a helicopter, taste this kind of food, speak to this person or whatever. And that's what I love about journalism. It actually provides the stimulation and the deadlines that someone like me with an ADHD brain needs in order to feel alive. Plus, I'm an extrovert, so I enjoy talking to people. I don't know how that would work out for introverted people with ADHD. Maybe journalism wouldn't be the right career, but we have quieter, more introverted types of jobs like that, like maybe in maybe editing and maybe publishing for a publishing house or something like that, social media manager or something like that. Even though interacting with people on social media might be considered draining for an extrovert. I don't know. These are things that I don't know because I'm not an extrovert. I know personally, I don't like the idea of doing social media management. Oh my God. It seems like it would be right for me because I do enjoy talking to people. But again, you really have to kind of be locked into that same thing, that same story, that same brand. So even though I love reading comments and kind of fielding information from like taking the temperature of somebody's response to a post and people's response to a post, I think I'd be great at the research of engagement, but not necessarily creating the post, doing the output, because that's very routine and scheduled. And you do have to be on top of that at all times. You have to really be like a data-driven person. I am none of those things. It's not that I'm not data driven. I'm interested in data. Obviously, as a researcher, I love numbers and knowing like how things are skewed towards this or towards that. But I can say I had a taste of doing social media management, and it was not my cup of tea. Journalist, and plus you're speaking in the brand's voice. That's another thing. I think as a journalist, what I absolutely adore, and as a writer, what I adore is that I get to have my own voice. Like, let me just take in this moment because I think that's super important for me. Let me remember that. Like, it's important for me to have my own voice. I have done ghostwriting for like one person. And I was going to do a joint kind of ghostwriting project with someone. And, then I decided I wanted credit and I didn't want to do it as a ghostwriting project. And then she got back to me and she said, listen, I think that it would compromise both of our voices if we had to do this together. I would rather us work separately. So that could have been because of other reasons as well. She could have just decided she didn't like how long I was taking to do the project, but it was a pro bono exchange thing. So it wasn't like a paid deadline thing. I don't think I've never missed a deadline. I've never missed a deadline because deadlines motivate me so much. Now in school, that's another thing. I'm paying them. So it's like if I need time, I need time. I'm paying you. But when it comes to me being paid, that's a really good incentive to just be on time with something. So I got a couple of hands and a couple of different pots for some low hanging fruit jobs. I want to be like completely transparent about that. And I think the reason why is because it really helps when you have someone who comes on YouTube or live or any kind of broadcast thing and they're talking about their story and they leave out the negative parts and they leave out the difficult parts. I just think it's unfair because people are already looking at you like, wow, you're out there, you are very brave for telling your story. And they may think that you have, because you're articulate, because you look good, because you have the balls to even get on social media or TV or whatever, they may just think that you have it all together. And that's a false idea. And I want to I want to show the journey of the mess of creating a new life, which is what I am doing. I'm creating a new life for myself and I'm redesigning my life, not just with ADHD in mind, but with my true goals and my passion and my heart and my belief in myself in mind. So in deciding I would go into teaching, and then when that didn't work out, I went to Atlanta for 2 weeks. That didn't work out. I mean, it worked out in the sense that I learned, but it didn't work out in the sense that I didn't stay. I don't feel like I really was able to give Atlanta the chance that I truly wanted to, but I can also say I've never felt really drawn to living there either. I'm not saying it's out of the question, and I think that there's a lot of opportunities, obviously, but I don't know. I just hadn't really felt drawn to it. Who knows? It could be the perfect place for me, but I know that I want something absolutely new, and I want to do it on my own. And it's like, it's not bad to take help from someone, but I feel like my last lesson was in taking help from someone, namely my parents. And I've had to ask my sister for help, and she's offered to help. And I've helped others, but I'm talking about me accepting help, accepting financial help and assistance. And it has just been the most humbling experience. It has just broken me down to my core of who I am. That is really the thing that helped me understand my self-worth. The fact that I had to realize and learn and accept that me not contributing financially doesn't mean that I'm not worthy and doesn't mean that I'm a burden. It doesn't mean that I am not contributing in a way that is valuable. And it doesn't make me worthless. It doesn't make me a loser that I need help and that I'm accepting it. It doesn't make me unambitious and it doesn't make me lazy. And because things are taking longer than I expect, it doesn't mean that they're not going to happen. And they may happen in a better way than I've ever imagined. And so this time period has really taught me just so much patience and so much grace and forgiveness for myself and forgiveness for other people in my life who I am learning to love and accept them as who they are, because we do think differently. I would do things differently. But that humility that I have to have because I'm in someone else's space is it's a growing thing. So I had these limiting beliefs for a long time after I got out of the teaching game. And then when I started my business, the ADHD kicked in terms of hyper focus on starting it, but I kind of was hyper focused on a lot of things that I ended up not utilizing, like digital marketing and funnels and all these things that may come into play that I would love to hire someone to take care of for me later on when I'm building my brand, but that I see that me trying to handle on my own is just not the best use of my time. So in transitioning the focus of my business from just helping small businesses technically and with writing content, I actually moved down into really just focusing on writing and becoming a better writer. But then even then I had different veins of writing that I wanted to focus on: copywriting, content writing, blogs, newsletters. Yes, I still want to do these things, but it's like it still wasn't quite true to who I am. So I decided to put on some of my packages for pricing that these are the topics that I write about. I write about millennials, I write about adulting, I write about sexuality and relationships and women's health and things like that, which all of these are super broad topics. Okay. But these are the things that I was covering on my blog, which I was too ashamed because I was top free on my blog. I was too ashamed to put out there to the public because I was like, oh, okay, I don't want people seeing this. But now that I'm like coming into my own, I'm starting to work on this erotica book, The Bridge. The name may change, but it's going to be a work of erotic short fiction because this is what I'm good at. This is what people have been telling me that I'm actually really good at. It's what I feel good doing. It is super effortless. So I have that project. I still want to become a sex and relationships expert because what I did in meditation, I saw myself 10 years from now being interviewed by some old white guy and me saying, well, money is definitely not an issue anymore. So I feel like that is in the works for me. I do want to be a New York Times bestseller. And I do want to influence a culture and a generation, especially Black people who may be really closed off about sex and Black women who have a lot of sexual shame because of how they naturally are. I do want to free them from their sexual shame, not me freeing them per se, but provide tools or a perspective that can help do that. And then I think about the things that I've always been interested in. For instance, Juju Mama, and her Kenya K and her husband, like to me, those are people who feel like big brother and big sister to me because you should really look them up. They have great tools on relationships and sex and everything. And they really just brought a spiritual vibe to it. And so me studying this has really influenced my relationships and conversations around relationships for a really long time. And I've experienced things that have truly opened me up into the woman who I am today because I took a lot of this stuff on. And then my religious upbringing, being raised by a former pastor and an elder in the church has influenced me and my beliefs on religion. Being a former tarot card reader gave me that one-on-one with people where I began to learn how draining it is, number one, when you don't have the proper protection. And also that I didn't want to deal in that world in divination anymore, but I still actually really value talking to someone and hearing their story. So I want to somehow incorporate that into what I do in the future. So I'm interested in so many things. I'm also interested in work and how jobs and things, which I've had so much struggle with in having ADHD. And I've had so much struggle with and being a Black woman working in these white spaces that, so many things weren't built with me in mind, and me just having to navigate through it. All of that stuff is being like formed, into a big ball of dough in which is being like shaped to give me the power to be able to speak into existence. Like, this is the next thing that I want to try. And this is the next thing that I want to do. And yes, I'm going to partner with institutions to do it, possibly go to school, get training, get certified. Yes, I'm going to partner with individuals. Yes, I'm going to be employed, and I won't ever do it all on my own. But it means that they'll be ready for me too. They'll be looking for someone like me too. And you can't, and so that's the thing about jobs or opportunities. Like, it's never just you. So I don't believe that we're out here just manifesting things and just making things happen. It is a cooperative process. It is a co-creating process. And in my co-creation, maybe I was ready for something that the world wasn't ready for, or maybe the world was ready for something that I wasn't ready for. So it wasn't quite matching up. So it is matching up now because I feel some big change on the horizon getting closer. And yes, I feel it will be something where I'll be starting from the bottom again, but I'll be bringing in all these tools with me, and I'll be able to get ahead very quickly. So this could be a graduate school program. This could be a certified sexologist program. Or this could be simply just moving to a new place and working at a regular place of employment while I save up money to go to the next level of my specialized training. I don't know what it will be, but I know it's going to be good, and I really wanted to express this feeling. And also, okay, so I'm also looking at certain relationships differently. So I'll record another video about that. I don't want these videos to go too long. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, hit the button, actually subscribe. I think that I would like that the most. And comment if you want to be a part of this conversation. And let me talk about some of the relationships that I've been kind of examining. Y'all tell me if I'm crazy or not.